what's your ideal movie watching experience?
Ooh, like I'm a movie theater guy. So I'm kind of like a traditionalist. Like I grew up going to the movie theater was such a big deal. It felt like a special event. Or going to the drive-in theater was like this fun, cool adventure type thing. So my ideal movie going experience is going to the movie theater. It doesn't have to be IMAX, it doesn't have to be Dolby or anything like that, but just like a movie theater and some snacks. I'm a snack guy, whether it be popcorn, whether it be like candy. Uh, if the movie theater has drinks like coffee or something like that, that's a bonus, but it doesn't have to. But I gotta have snacks and at a movie theater and early enough to see the trailers.
Okay. So you want to suck it all in, start to
Suck it all
finish.
in. Yeah.
Crank the
And
speakers up before the lights are even down. You want to
yes.
be in there seeing like the like crappy local advertisements. I don't think those exist anymore. But
Those were fun though.
what you sound like is just the classic, not it has to be the exact snack, the exact popcorn bucket, and the exact like reclining chair or anything, but pretty much like the movies, the way it was made,
The
right?
way
Like,
yes,
yeah,
the way it was made, the way it was meant to be, like because for me, the opposite, like, the worst is, like, watching it at home with, like, a few other people, and they're on their phone, or they do the deal where, like, they get up to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, "I'll pause it so you don't miss anything," and they're like, "Nah, don't worry about it." I'm like, "Ah,
I
you're gonna miss,
can't
like, a great
handle.
part of the
Oh my
movie."
gosh,
Yeah,
I can't
like
say I'm the most attentive to everything that's ever on TV, but don't leave. Like pause it. We need to pause it.
yes.
Don't we have to pause it. It's okay. Why miss 5 minutes and then ask about something that happened for the last 90 minutes of the movie?
I'm gonna cut out that part of the podcast and give it to my wife, that clip.
I might have some homework for mine as well. Uh, and also, please, no one send this to our wives. Welcome to the Daily Thunder Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Cray. I have got our beat writer, Brandon Rabar, with us. Good evening, Brandon.
Hey, what's up, Cray?
Not much. I like this rhythm we're in of about a day off in between games we've been having.
Mhm.
I know the team's probably tired of traveling so much while we're kind of getting these breathers. And I just to pull the curtain back for the audience, we were going to record this originally before the Celtics game, and we bumped it to after the Celtics game. And my original opener was going to be, how much does winning 12 straight games and getting Jada back change your outlook for the Thunder heading into the playoffs? I think the most common topic today is, how alarmed should the Thunder be for losing their first out of 13 games on the road in Boston? So all that to say, how do you feel? Is the sky falling with the Spurs within 2 games of the Thunder now? Or do you feel pretty solid and certain now that the Thunder are full strength, less kind of dud of a game notwithstanding?
Yeah, I mean, you can't win them all is the thing. Like, you've won 12 straight, and you're playing the number 2 seed in the East, probably the best team in the East right now, at their place. They really wanted that game, and, it's a game where you win, where you're up by 13 early, and Shea looks brilliant, and unfortunately, all the role players were just cold from deep. I mean, it really came down to the fact that the Celtics bench shot the lights out. They were 9 of 17 from 3, and the Thunder bench was really cold. They were 4 of 22 from 3. And if you look at like all the open shots that Shea created for his teammates, they were good looks. They were looks that you want, and they just didn't hit him. It's unfortunate. Like, here's the deal. It's not a big deal to lose one game after 12 wins at Boston. It's just not. But in the context of what's happening, this Western Conference race for the number 1 seed where San Antonio is nipping at your heels, and now you're only 2 games ahead, but it's really 1 game because they have the tiebreaker, so you can only lose 1 more game than they can the rest of the way. And then the big issue is kind of the overriding issue here is that the Thunder have a much, much tougher schedule the rest of the way than the Spurs do. That's really the problem. I think if you just drop this game and, the Thunder and the Spurs have kind of an even schedule the rest of the way, it's not that big a deal, but it feels like a big deal because of the context of the whole big picture. So that said, they are healthy now. That's important. There's going to be some bumps and bruises along the way, trying to get everybody worked in now and getting, some chemistry and developing a rhythm with J-Dub back. We saw the great with J-Dub and the 76ers, and then he wasn't feeling it, unfortunately, against the Celtics. And he was out for over 5 weeks. He's missed over half of this season. He's human. He's going to be up and down no matter how good he is. He's going to be up and down until he gets his rhythm. Unfortunately, against the Celtics, he wasn't feeling it. He still brought it defensively. I'm kind of going all over the place. My overarching point here is I don't think it's a big deal to lose to the Celtics, but it feels like a big deal because of the context of the race for number 1.
Okay, so I'm going to do my less grumpy old Thunder fan take. Because you can tell, and I think a lot of us are quite annoyed by certain popular sentiments in the discourse, if you want to call it, or the NBA hive mind, I like to call it. I've got to get over. I'm working on it. But I mean, like, I'll just get one more out, and then I'll do my like good NBA fan take. But I feel like at the same time, just like you said, the Thunder schedule is really rough, right? It's also been really rough without J-Dub since the All-Star break, which is why we've basically been having this conversation for weeks, right? Of, Spurs are 2, 3, 4 games back. Can they kind of keep ahead of them? But the Spurs have it's really been more about the Spurs keeping pace with the Thunder. Because if they hadn't, I think we would be celebrating the Thunder. But anyway, I feel like at the same time, a lot of people are counting on, and I wouldn't blame them to project the Thunder to lose a few games, but they're highlighting how brutal the Thunder's schedule is and essentially penciling in the Spurs to beat them, to win enough games to pull ahead. But also, I feel like downplaying how great the Thunder would be to keep winning these games against such a brutal schedule. People just don't seem impressed. But I think, you say the game it feels so big for losing 1 game out of 13. It feels like such a big high stakes loss. I felt like the Boston crowd was a playoff crowd, and it played out like a playoff game, even though it was kind of ugly for the Thunder side of it on the road. But I think it's because like the competition level is so high that a lot of these games are going to feel like we're basically, almost in the playoffs. There is truly special MVP level, championship level basketball being played by several teams. And I think instead of, I need to stop trying to diminish some of the other teams and just enjoying it. What do you think? Do you think there's anything special about kind of the quality of competition right now?
I think that the Thunder and the Spurs are the class of the NBA. I think they have kind of separated themselves. The Nuggets, I think if everything kind of comes together and they're healthy and they can get some chemistry going before the playoffs, they could get into that. I think that the Spurs have been incredibly impressive. Obviously, when you look at how they've been winning lately, I would say their schedule during this win streak hasn't exactly been the strongest. And even some of the wins against good teams, a lot of those good teams didn't have some of their top guys. Not to take anything away, but I think that's a big part of why the Thunder, that lead at the top of the West has been diminishing because the Spurs aren't losing because they just haven't been playing very many tough teams. And when they do, some of those guys are out. That said, I do think the Spurs are legit. I think the Nuggets, when fully healthy, are legit. The Lakers have a ceiling and an upside that is high because of Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves and their offense. They still have issues defensively and with size and things like that. Any given night, the Wolves can look great. They can look bad. Same with the Rockets. I got to be honest. I think that the only true contenders in the West are the Thunder, Spurs, and Nuggets. And I think if every team is full strength, the Thunder is still the best in the NBA. And in the East, it's hard for me to take the Pistons seriously in the playoffs because I think their offense will struggle. I think they'll have shooting issues. It's hard to trust the Knicks. It's hard to trust the Cavs. The Celtics, obviously, I think are probably the best team in the East, but I think that if I'm being completely honest, at full strength, I think the three best teams are in the West. I think the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Nuggets are the three best teams. Um, Look, I think that the Thunder having the number one seed, whether or not they finish the number one seed, the Spurs might pass them. I don't know. But they've done this all season with the second most injured team in the NBA, with J-Dub, an all NBA player, missing more than half the season, Hartenstein, Caruso, Shea missed 12 games, Chet has missed double-digit games. Pretty much the top, AJ Mitchell, like the top six rotation guys have all missed double digits, and J-Dub, Hartenstein, and Caruso have missed a lot of games. So to me, if every team is at full strength, the Thunder are the best team. But I do think that there are other really good teams for sure that are true contenders.
I also don't think they're especially challenging the best in the West. I think several teams could come out of the East, and who knows? The Pacers had a shot at winning the championship last year when they got to the finals. We wouldn't have really given them those odds. The Heat have been there. They haven't had a great shot, but they've had a legit chance to win the title out of the East against heavier hitters in the West. But anyway, I do feel like, obviously, Spurs, I think, number one, Nuggets number two. Nuggets, we've at least seen the Thunder take them out, and I'm a pretty big doubter of the Nuggets versus the Thunder. Spurs, who knows what it will look like in a playoff series, but obviously this regular season has been a challenge. So, but I do have a question about the Celtics. So, do you think Jason Tatum is not going to be fully himself for the postseason stretch? And if he was, would you feel any differently about their fastball?
Yeah, I mean, ironically, it seemed like Jason Tatum had his best game of the season against the Thunder last night. So if they get that Jason Tatum, I think that obviously raises their ceiling by quite a bit. I do think that them winning a title is dependent on Jason Tatum being as close to 100% as possible. I think if he's, 80% of himself, I think it's gonna be tough for them to win a title. I think it'll be tough for them to beat the Pistons or the Knicks or the Cavs. But certainly tough to beat whoever comes out of the West, whether it be the Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets. I would pick the Thunder, Spurs, or Nuggets over the Celtics in a 7-game series in the finals, no matter which of those three teams it is. But if Jason Tatum, as the playoffs are going on, looks like 100% Jason Tatum, sure, that definitely changes my point of view. Certainly, I just like their big situation and their defense. I just don't know if I trust it in a playoff setting against those West teams.
I love the confidence. Thank you. Here I was trying to be impressed by everyone else, but the way of my heart, which is to not consider most of the league on the Thunder's level, which I think is true until proven otherwise. So I'm with you in spirit as much as I'm trying not to be annoyed by all the praise and the Thunder are weak. Could the Lakers have a puncher's chance against them because they can win in the clutch? Like, I think no, they don't. I don't like. I love the tear that LeBron's on and Luka as well. It's very fun, but that's not a team that I would be worried about them losing to in the playoffs necessarily. So we've talked about this before. The goals remaining continue to be health, seeding, MVP. And in what order now? Has it moved at all for you?
I mean, obviously, health is going to be the most important. The ultimate goal is winning the NBA championship, and for this team to do that, you got to be healthy. And thankfully, they're getting healthy at the right time. And so I'm going to be curious. They have two more back to backs. They have the Knicks Pistons. The Pistons are the second night of back to back. That's at home. And then they have Lakers Clippers on the road. The Clippers are the second night of a back to back. I'm very curious to see how they handle uh, Hartenstein and J-Dub specifically in those two matchups, because those are tough teams and you'd like to have your full complement of guys. But those two guys in particular, with their injuries, maybe sitting back to backs. I would say that the seeding and the MVP kind of go hand in hand. I think if the Thunder end up the number one seed, Shai is going to win MVP. If the Thunder don't get the number one seed, unfortunately, and I think this is ridiculous, there's going to be a lot of debates about who should be MVP. There's going to be Wemby arguments. There's going to be Luka arguments. There's going to be some Jokic arguments. And of course, there's going to be Shai arguments. I'll be honest with you. This is not how the Thunder will prioritize it, but my own priorities, like for me, like getting the MVP is the bigger deal, only because I'm not sure that the number one seed is that big of an advantage over the number two seed. And here's why. Obviously, you want home court in a possible Western Conference Finals against the Spurs. Obviously, for sure. You want the number one seed. But if you look at the possible route, like the one seed may have to play Denver in the second round. I think that'd be tougher than having to play the Lakers in the second round. So, and I could be wrong. The Lakers could end up being tougher, but the number two seed road may end up being a little bit easier than the number one seed road. But I think that you got to clinch the number one seed to make sure Shai gets the MVP. And you could say, it's an individual award. It doesn't ultimately matter. I think it matters because Shai is building a legacy, and I think he deserves MVP. I think he's been the best player this season. I think that there's a lot of discourse and narratives and things like that out there. But I think if you look at the season, if you look at winning, if you look at statistics, if you look at impact on winning, if you look at just like the whole big picture, Shai has the best argument. And I just think that like back-to-back MVP is such rare air, and to have a Thunder player like Shai and what he's meant to this team, this organization, the city, the state, I just think it would be really cool to see him win back-to-back. And I think that may ultimately be a bigger prize than getting the number one seed. But it's like you almost got to get the number one seed to see him get the MVP for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think back to back is number one, the real number one, right? Whatever path to the repeat. But I am at the point where narrative, what people mean by that, kind of like the agenda or whatever, right? But like you said, Shai's building a legacy. His career story is important to me, and I think it is under celebrated.
Yes.
And I know a lot of Thunder fans and basketball fans that I respect that are like, don't let it get under your skin, kind of too cool for school. But I'm like, no, I think the point of following and covering the sport is when players do incredible feats, you acknowledge them and you celebrate them, and you don't just turn Shai against Wemby, but you look back at what Shai has done now all the way through last year, where he won the MVP and the title, and years prior building the Thunder to where they are. And yeah, I won't be, heartbroken if he doesn't get it because the Spurs past them, but I want the best story for who I think is the best player in the league right now, and I think the best story in the league right now. I know Wemby is a very exciting. He's not a project, right? But specimen, I get. He's an otherworldly thing that's happening, but like I just think Shai's story, just the arc of his career, and this season in particular, need to be very loudly celebrated by anyone that cares about the sport.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like if you just look at their resumes, Wemby has been incredible. No doubt. Obviously. But, the whole it's so funny, the whole defense isn't valued enough. Like people have always said that, like, talking about MVP, like it's, you got to look whenever, it's been Jokic or Luke or whatever, people say like, yeah, but you got to look at defense. That's always been ignored. Nobody's ever said it's always been, an offensive award. And sure, maybe defense can be a tiebreaker or something like that. But now all of a sudden, like Wemby said, defense is half of the game. And now everybody's like, yeah, that's true. Defense is half a game. And he makes such a huge impact on defense. He's the best defensive player in the league, yada, 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 which is true. I mean, he's an incredible, incredible defender. But it's just funny that now this race, all of a sudden, for the first time, people are like, yeah, we should consider defense half of the resume here when that's never been a thing. And if you look at the offense, like as good as Wemby is becoming offensively, like Shai is just in another stratosphere. Shai is shooting better from 2, from 3, from the free throw line, true shooting as a guard versus a 7'5" center. Like it's just like a different world. And he's averaging 7.5 more points per game. He's averaging way more assists per game. He's averaging fewer turnovers per game. And so like Shai's got him beaten every single statistic, every single like advanced stat and everything, except for rebounds and blocks. And really for blocks, for a guard, Shai's like top 1% in blocks for a guard. So to me, it's easily Shai. And like Shai has more wins. Like even if the Spurs pass the Thunder or tie the Thunder and win because of the tiebreaker, the Spurs won more games while Wemby was sitting than the Thunder did while Shai was sitting because Wemby, was out more games. So Shai's actually got the better, like winning record, the better win-loss record than Wemby does. So I just think that it's as great as Wemby is. I think that everybody is just ready to anoint him a little bit early. He's going to win MVPs. I think this year he should win Defensive Player of the Year. He is an incredible player. It's an incredible story. But to me, Shai is the MVP this year, and he should win it. And it's like all season long, it was like Shai versus Jokic. Then it was Shai versus Cade Cunningham. Then it was Shai versus Jaylen Brown. Shai versus Luka. Now it's Shai versus Wemby. I mean, like the common denominator is Shai has been elite all season long. And as great as this run from the Spurs and Wemby has been, I think the MVP should be Shai.
Yeah, I'll just keep griping. It has been Shai versus everyone, but I feel like it's been begrudgingly from the start. Well, if they win this many games,
Right.
you can't keep it from Shai. That's been his case to most people. Has been he's good enough combined with the Thunder's success to just that's what the MVP usually is. And that's his argument, not he is better, materially better than the other players. And then we hit a point pretty recently when Jokic has just been struggling. And he's coming back from injury. The Nuggets have been teetering, but he's basically fallen back. And there was this, I don't even know if it was a week, but it was, and I'm not talking about Twitter people that troll us or anything. I'm talking about the national media figures that I respect and learn from and like listening to their stuff. There was this moment where it was like, oh, is it now Shai is actually the best player, not just he just qualified and checked the right boxes and had the best candidacy to vote on for the MVP. It's that, do we just have to acknowledge that he's actually just better than Jokic right now and actually looking at his head-to-head match and all the things Thunder fans have been obsessing about, right? that would make a case for Shai just being better, not just being kind of the right mix of play / team dynamic / narrative or whatever you want to call it. But they were also in the very next breath saying, but who's it going to be next year? Is it going to be Wemby? Okay, technically he's better for the last 15 minutes of this season and maybe this playoffs, but then he can't be next season. And he just doesn't stop winning, doesn't stop getting better. I think he will be on the best team next year. I think he will contribute to the best defense next year and be the best offensive player again. But I just feel this like urge to just pat him on the head, right? Like, we really like him, but he just doesn't look like the best player. He doesn't, his style of play, the way he came up as a development story, just he can't really be it. He's just not. He doesn't like fit the shape of the what we think of as the best player. But I don't know. Am I going crazy? Am I too obsessed over Shai's reputation, or is this something worth fighting for?
No, I think
At Daily Thunder.
I think it's worth fighting for because I think that he is the best player in the world right now. I think when you look at what he did last year and what he's doing this year, the seasons that he's putting together, winning the championship, winning Finals MVP, winning the scoring title, all the things that he's done, I think that he deserves to be called best player in the world, especially when you look at the head-to-head matchups with Jokic and with Luka and Anthony Edwards in the playoffs recently. Like, he's outplayed all of them head-to-head in the playoffs recently. And so I think that he deserves it. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, like, if you look on social media, Twitter, wherever it is, people just do not want to give him credit. Like, the whole free throw stuff is just out of control and ridiculous, quite honestly. Like, you could take any slow-mo, one like 5-second clip from a game from any superstar in the league and say that they're a free throw merchant, but the numbers do not back it up. And you know that, you've done the research. Like, the reputation does not match up the actual statistics and numbers. And so I think that it's so funny because he's just won 12 games in a row. He actually won 13 games in a row. One of the games that they lost, he wasn't playing in against the Pistons. And then through this stretch where he's been incredible, hit game winners, even last night when they lost, he was the best player on the floor. I know Jaylen Brown is getting credit for all that. Shai was a better player than Jaylen Brown, as great as Jaylen Brown was last night. If some of Shai's teammates would have hit some open shots, he probably could have had 15 assists last night and the Thunder win that game. And he goes 10 of 12 for 33 points. So he's dominated through this stretch, and somehow through this stretch that he's dominated, hit these game winners and wins 12 straight games. They're talking about other players like being the best in the world now and should be MVP and all that. Like, while SGA and the Thunder are actively dominating without J-Dub, without Hartenstein, without Caruso, without whoever it is. And then like the whole like online reputation and stuff, just, I think that whether you think he's the best in the world, the second best, whatever it is, he is not getting, I think, the flowers that he deserves from the common fan and from the general population, because unfortunately, people have ran with this whole merchant thing and blown it up, and it's just really, really unfortunate, because I think he is the best player in the world, and I don't think he's gotten the proper dues that he should get.
Yeah, it's true. I have done too much research, but there is no statistical case that Shai draws free throws at any greater rate than a player handling his role in the offense. Well above average, but not above average among like top 25 isolation players or volume players or usage players or drivers. And he is over the last 4 years easily. The most common play in basketball in the last 4 years is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing something with the ball. So he has the biggest body of work and sample showing that he is not an elite foul drawer. There are clips. I can show you 3 made 3-point field goals from the same game the same half even from Giannis. Does that mean he is a good 3-point shooter? And I put a challenge on the blog because I was going crazy, annoyed by it. But if you can't like compare like 10 plays from Shai driving and 10 plays from Jaylen Brown driving, and be able to point out that Shai got 2 more whistles that he should. I mean, people think he gets, they really think he gets like a whistle every time he misses the shot. People think this. There's just no proof. There's no proof. There is, he gets fouls called sometimes. That's not proof that he's the griftiest or whatever they think. So anyway, but also kind of my hunch is that Brandon, I don't think they think he's the second best player either. That's the thing. I just don't think they think a player of his ilk is Giannis, Wemby, Jokic. Like they don't. They just. I think the gut for a lot of people is just like he, even being number 2, probably deep down they don't want to believe it, but they're
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, because I agree with you because I think that like the other guys, it's kind of easy to say, like Jokic. He's a big man that gets a lot of assists and scores really efficiently, and he puts up a lot of points, rebounds, and assists. So it's easy to say. I think with Wemby, he's 7'5", and he is an incredible defender, and he does some incredible, amazing things that we've never seen before because he's 7'5", and he doesn't move like a guy that's 7'5". I think with Giannis, he is so strong and so dominant in the post. You can look at him and be like, oh, that's a dominant player. I think with Luka, he's such a high volume, high usage, again, high points, rebounds, assist guy, that it's easy, and he has like these high highs. Say high highs. He just has these high highs where he goes off for like and then Shea, what he does, I don't think it like jumps out to people. If you watch him, I think he is the most aesthetically pleasing and smoothest player in the NBA. One of the most skilled and smoothest players we've ever seen. High IQ, high efficient. Everything he does feels like the right play, and he is automatic from the mid range. He is automatic driving. Like his skill is off the charts. He really doesn't have any weaknesses. But he doesn't. He's not a big man. He's not a high flyer. Like even Anthony Edwards, because he's a high flyer and because the personality is real large and things like that. I think like those are the guys that are easier to say like, oh, that's best player. And Shays is just more kind of low key. But if you watch him, and that's the difference, and it's so funny because J-Dub continuously says, watch the games. If you actually watch Shea, you can be like, oh yeah, this is the best player in the league because he's dominant and consistent every single night. And there's a reason why a guy who puts up 32 every night on hyper efficiency and no turnovers and is a good defender is able to contribute to winning at such a high level because you can count on it, bank on it every single night. There's not these spikes of highs and lows. And I think that's why he's the best player in the game. But I just don't think that it jumps out to everybody because he's not, as obvious.
I'm glad you said that because he's not a boring player at all.
No,
It's not like he's dull.
not at all. To me,
He
he's
is.
incredibly entertaining, but it's not what people usually find entertaining as far as like the high flying dunks or spamming threes or a big dominant man or something like that.
Yeah, and I will say there was a time when people complain about Steph in these terms. There's a time when I complained about James Harden. I think he's better than Harden was at the time, and obviously he's achieved more. But the best version of offense, especially old timers, right? How long did people say, "Oh, just pressure Steph. Come on, just meet him at half court, and then he'll average 12 points a game." Like when he is just setting the roof on fire
Right.
every single night, then no one can, ever desperately chasing him around the floor. But people, for some reason, think his points are cheap, right?
Right.
His points are easy, and they feel like the way about Shea. But yeah, his play style is, and maybe it's a little bit of an acquired taste, but I'm not like, we're not like, you don't have to be like a basketball aficionado to like understand the moves he's made. He's unstoppable. You can watch him and not know a thing about the game and be like, he never misses.
Yeah. Yeah.
He never loses a possession. I've got one pop quiz for you.
Oh, nice.
Wimby could be better on offense, right?
Yes.
Like this season, he could have had a better offensive season if he played differently. True or false?
I would say true. He shoots so many threes, and sometimes he's on and hitting a lot. But yeah, I think that he could for sure. And side note, I, I don't want to hijack what you're doing here. I think that's the risk that we run if they give Wemby the MVP this year because of his defense. I think it's setting a really bad precedent because his defense is always going to be dominant and his offense is only going to get better. So if you're saying you're going to give him MVP because he's of his defense, then you're just saying that you're going to give Wemby MVP every season going forward because the offense is going to get better.
I agree. He's going to get better, obviously. But he shoots, I think it's the fourth most threes per game of all centers. And he shoots under league average from three. So he is, we're talking about impact. He's damaging his team with bad shots, almost, in the very highest tier of centers damaging their teams. Well, and all the other centers ahead of him have better shooting percentages, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I think that to me is a big strike against him is that he could be better. I feel like Shai is maxing out, and I don't think Weminyama is on offense. Lord help us when he does. But
Yeah.
okay, well, the pop quiz was in contrast. It's just such a funny league and MVP race and the players involved. So we've got Wimby, the 7'6" at least 3-point chucker below league average. I mean that's not all he's doing on offense, but he really likes hero ball. Where do you think Shai ranks in 3-point volume among guards
Oh, like the actual ranking or like percentage wise.
per game? Just like how many threes he shoots from the guard position, not just point guard.
He's gotta be somewhere middle of the pack. He definitely is pretty conservative given his role. But because he does, he is a high volume scorer, yeah, I'd say amongst all guards, I would say he's somewhere right around the middle.
He's 85th. 85. He's averaging 4.4 shots per game, tied with Cedric Coward, Jaden Hardy, Vince Williams Jr.
Yeah,
at
it's pretty
4.4, 3 points a game. He is almost out of the top 100. He is point 0.1 ahead of Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah, that is wild. That is wild to think, like, he is he definitely picks his spots, and for somebody that's such a high volume scorer and that actually shoots the 3 ball really well, he's very, very conservative with it, and the thing is he pretty much creates all those himself. He very, very rarely gets a catch and shoot opportunity. He even more seldomly gets an open catch and shoot opportunity.
Last question. I asked Ryan the same thing, but we've been celebrating the 2-pointer in Shai's mid range, which has been incredible. Is the next best addition to his offensive package a few more 3-pointers taken per game on top of his otherwise spectacular efficiency and shot diet.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Like it's hard to see him leveling up anymore because he does everything so well. I guess and his playmaking has gotten so good too. I think if there would be one thing that you could be like, I guess this could get a little bit better, it'd just be the same, 3-point percentage on higher volume for sure. Yeah.
And he can. To me, like I'm not saying he has to or needs to, but he could. Like I could. That's not far fetched at all to me. That he could score 3 or 4 more points a game next year, just through a little bit more 3-point volume.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, he could do it for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, good Shai talk. Good gripe about the rest of the league. But you know what? It's almost playoff time. We're gonna really hate these teams very soon. So might as well go ahead and get in the spirit.
So this last stretch of 9 games, I think it's big that so many of them are at home. 5 games at home. You got a real opportunity here because you have some tough games like the Bulls and Jazz games. Those should be gimmies. If you can go 3-0, and it's a tough ask because the Pistons are on the second night of back to back. The Knicks are a tough team. And then you also got the Lakers. That's a tough ask. But as far as like the number one seed and MVP, it would go a long, long way if you can somehow take all 5 games at home. And then you feel like if you can just like get, uh, then you worry about the last 4 games when you got to worry about them. But if you can get all 5 at home, man, that the things that you want as a Thunder fan, I feel like could very well happen if you can get those 5 games.
And I've also been saying Wembanyama, I'm not saying this necessarily as a criticism, but he's openly gunning for both the 1 seed and the MVP. And I just think there's beyond, even if they end up with the 1 seed, there's great value in making sure that the Spurs are expending, and especially Victor is expending absolute maximum energy for the remainder of his games before his first postseason.
Yeah, I agree that the problem is that they're facing so many tanking teams that are just going to hand them wins. But yeah, the games against like, are the Warriors going to get Steph Curry back for that game when they play the Spurs? That will make a big difference. Will the Nuggets be trying against the Spurs in the 2 games that they play them, especially that last game of the year? Are they going to be going for it? Those are the things I'm very, very curious. I think they might play the 76ers as well. Like, is Joel Embiid going to play that? Will Tyrese Maxey be back? Like, those could be the things that help decide the number 1 seed going down the stretch.
Okay, we'll see. Well, thank you, Brandon, for another good Thunder Talk. Thank you to our listeners for checking out today's show. Please subscribe, share, review the show if you like it and want other people to know about Daily Thunder and the coverage we do. And of course, check out the blog, dailythunder.com, for our daily newsletter, previews, recaps, articles, podcasts, and all the other fun stuff that we put out every week. And we will see you next time.